That movie is a shit show. What you think you see, what you think you hear, that's what it's about. It's all theater of the mind. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. Mood and atmosphere. Now that I really like. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. It is 1:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. And hey, it's, what is it today? It's Wednesday, February the 16th, 2022. And thought I would jump on and talk Halloween because I know that there is a huge portion of my viewers that's all they care about. And I don't mean that in any sort of shade. I'm not throwing shade at you. It's a fact. I mean, let's be honest here, right? That's the analytics don't lie. So I thought I would jump on and talk some Halloween because we have a certain section of the fan base that is just about Halloween. So I don't know what you guys are going to do after Halloween ends. I mean, you better hope it's not the end or it's... that might happen. But yeah, so Halloween Ends is currently shooting right now. No surprise there. There have been other channels that have been talking about it, covering it, all that kind of stuff. That's fine. I've just haven't done it because, I'm not somebody... Like, yes, as I've mentioned in the past, in 2018, I was doing more of that anytime there was a photo that came out or a little bit of info that came out, I was jumping on it because it was exciting. I mean, it was the first time that we were having a Halloween movie at that time in nearly a decade, but it wasn't just really the 8-year span that we were excited about, the 9-year span. It was more to do with the idea that that it was an interesting experiment. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, hang on a sec here. It's Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis is back. Nick Castle is back. At that time, we didn't know how much he was back. It was, oh my God, that's, holy shit. You know what I'm saying? John Carpenter, he said, holy shit, he's back doing the, what the fuck is it? And it was really, really exciting. And then they're pretending all the sequels don't exist, and it's a fucking sequel to the original, and all that. It was crazy. It was crazy. So there was a lot of hype. There was a lot of anticipation. There was a lot of excitement. Well, now, of course, we kind of know what to expect, right? So for me, I'm not somebody that's jumping on every little thing that comes out because it's just not as exciting to me anymore, and it's not really newsworthy to me. There are other channels out there that may, and all power to them, may want to, there's a photo that's released of Jamie Lee Curtis's toe, and it's like, oh my God! Ladies and gentlemen, you're sharing all that, and that's fine. You get excited about that, that's fine. For me, when a film is in production and shooting, unless you have dickwads on set, and there's always a few, I'm not suggesting there are dickwads on set to Halloween Ends. I'm just saying, sometimes you get people kind of, share that around, man. Why do you want to do that? Well, it's just because I want to get all the endorphins going and all the shit going, making me feel good about sharing something I shouldn't. And, that's what happens. Thankfully, there hasn't been a lot of that, really any of that, which is good. Kudos to the set of Halloween Ends. There's been a few little things kind of in the distance, like, that's kind of going on. We've seen the photos. The thumbnail of this video is something that obviously you have seen before. The three ladies in their Final Girl t-shirts. That's cute. That's fun. That's exciting. We saw the images of Laurie Strode. Her hair looks sort of kind of dyed and cut and nice and neat. This is 4 years later. We know that in the outfit, all that kind of stuff. if Jamie Lee Curtis is in her hotel room or out and about in Carolina and she happens to bump into a fan or something and that's a photo that she shares online, that probably isn't something that is approved, but you can take it to the bank that anything that has any of the characters in wardrobe would have to first be approved. So, this is something that, and sometimes, you know what? And in a lot of cases, they do this on purpose to kind of get ahead of certain things, right? There's certain things that they feel, this is likely going to get leaked. We don't really know what to do. So often what the studios will do is they will release images that they know the fans are going to be going, all that, but they want to get ahead of it, right? They want to be in control of the information that they are releasing, which I totally understand. And, that's important, right? Like I know when we were shooting It's Me, Billy, obviously not a Hollywood production in terms of the stakes, but taking it as seriously as we did, when we went to camera, one of the first things we said to the crew, because everybody had their phones and want to take photos and stuff, is that if you're going to post anything online that is a photo of the set or what's happening, first run it by myself or Bruce. So we could, again, and the reason for that is because we wanted to look at the photo and make sure there wasn't anything in there that could be spoilery, right? Like, oh, geez, there's Jess Bradford's face, or, oh, gee, all that kind of shit, right? And we had to do that a few times. And so that kind of thing is always, when you have a picture, like an official sort of photo of a cast member in their outfit or, kind of as candid as it might look, there is a very high probability, almost certainty, that these are approved photos that go out. Jamie Lee Curtis out and about on the street with a fan and a selfie, probably not a big deal. But so we have seen these official, quote unquote, sort of, postings from Jamie Lee Curtis with her in her outfit and in the makeup room, in the mirror and all that kind of stuff. And it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty cool, right? That's kind of cool. All right, cool. Final Girl t-shirts. Obviously, I don't believe the film is going to be that self-aware that Final Girl t-shirts are going to appear in the movie. That would be hilarious to me. I got to admit, at this stage of the game, I'd be like, can you imagine? They're all wearing the Final Girl t-shirts in the film. A little too on the nose. Obviously, that's not going to happen. That's just for a cute photo. But cool stuff. Now, one of the things, obviously, the film has been shooting for about a month now. So about 4 weeks, I'd say they've been in production. This is a smaller scale film than Halloween Kills. We know that. That's not my opinion. David Gordon Green has said that. One of the other things that David Gordon Green has said that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and maybe it's because they missed it, but during one of the screenings for Halloween Kills, I watched sort of the Q&A afterwards, and it was David Gordon Green and I think Jamie Lee Curtis was there, and it was when she kind of seemed like she'd had a few too many to drink. She was really kind of, kind of into it, tossing, I think, t-shirts into the crowd or whatever. Anyways, one of the things that David Gordon Green had said is that Halloween Ends, as we know, maybe it's out, maybe it was in total film, I can't remember now, but I don't see a lot of people talking about it, is that, yes, it's going to be a smaller film. And what does that mean? Well, it just means that in terms of the scale of the production, the locations, the intensity of the story, much smaller scale than Halloween Kills, but also that it's more of a coming-of-age film. That's fascinating. More of a coming-of-age film. Now, obviously, when we think of coming-of-age movies, certainly I think one of the quintessential perfect examples of that is 1986's Stand By Me, but there's a lot of coming-of-age stories throughout cinema, and generally what a coming-of-age story is either for our protagonist or protagonists, depending on how many, if it's a group sort of ensemble piece, it is, we see a clearly defined arc and sort of coming, it's a clearly defined arc and coming to terms with many things about either who they are as an individual, they get to know themselves, they get to accept themselves and others. We usually see it with kids because obviously and it's usually set in the past, the traditional route, right? Because it's usually kind of in the form of somebody who's now an adult, having the perspective of looking back at their life and being able to see sort of everything they've gone through, right? And seeing that arc and that sort of coming to terms and of who they are as an individual, all the things they've gone through, the lessons that they've learned throughout life, the morals, all that kind of stuff. So now, I think we should take, when David Gordon Green says it's like a coming of age film, take it with a grain of salt. I don't think we should take it literally necessarily. Like all of a sudden it's going to open up like, with Laurie Strode narrating the whole thing and talking about her life. I don't necessarily think it's going to do that, but more about the characters and their arcs, more about the dialogue. It's more about the dialogue and sort of the trajectory of watching the characters rather than it is action and blood and guts and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that'll be there. I mean, it's a Halloween horror movie, and obviously you're going to have that, but I thought that was interesting. And because it tells me that it's going to be more character focused rather than action focused, which is pretty cool. And I would imagine that it's going to be more focused on obviously Laurie and her coming to terms with possibly what Hawkins said in Halloween Kills. I mean, one of the things, now again, I'm not a big fan of Halloween Kills. I liked 18 better. However, having said that, one of the things that stood out to me, obviously, is when Hawkins sort of really kind of ripped the Band-Aid off of Laurie and sort of really burst her ego a bit by saying, it really isn't about you. It's never been about you. He probably doesn't even know who you are. I mean, maybe Michael does, right? Maybe when he tilts his head, but we don't know. Like, we don't know. We really have no evidence whatsoever that Michael Myers even recognizes Laurie. We have no idea. You could interpret that when they're fighting at the end of Halloween, 2018, when he pushes her up against the wall with the shotgun and he tilts his head, you could go, oh, maybe that's the moment where he's going, I know you. But there's so much evidence of him in the past in the first movie, because remember, all the other films don't exist. But in the first movie, there's at least evidence, I can't say so much evidence, but at least evidence of that one moment that I can remember when he's with Bob, right? And he does the same thing to Bob. Well, he's not doing that to Bob to say, I know you. He's doing it to sort of kind of, what a predator does, examine their prey, kind of look at it. That's interesting. I've seen my cat do that too, right? So although it's easy for us to believe that that's a moment of, I know you, it could not be that at all. It could not be that at all. There's no evidence yet, that Michael Myers even knows who Laurie is. So when Hawkins says that this isn't about you, it was Sartain that wanted to get the whole, it was like the air had just released from Laurie. She was like farting, like, you know what I'm saying? It was one of those things. It was one of those things. All the air had just come from her, and it was crazy. So, that's a moment that I think we're going to see Laurie, at least I would like to see, although it has been 4 years now. It has been 4 years. So we might not see her coming to terms with that, but we're going to see, I think, a very different Laurie Strode, a much more calm, cool, collected, not as sporadic Laurie Strode, I think, in this film. And I think that that aligns with a coming of age type of story they're telling, and where Laurie is now in terms of her character's arc, not just with sort of having 4 years have passed, but where sort of everything she's lost her daughter, right? She's realizing that this isn't about her at all. What does that do? We have to remember that Laurie Strode has spent the last 40 years. This is her identity. In one swift stroke, her identity was taken from her. This is her identity. This is her whole reason for existing. Is that the moment and the day that Michael Myers was going to escape. She knew it was going to happen. She felt it was going to happen, even if it was, even maybe if it never did. let's be honest here. She's mentally ill. Now, I don't know where she is now in Halloween Ends, right? Where she is now in terms of her trauma and the PTSD. Maybe she's gotten a lot better, which the images we've seen, at least on a surface level, indicate that that's a possibility. But I think it's important to remember that, again, this is her identity. This is her whole reason for existing. It's been a wedge between her and her family. It's she's the crazy lady that lives down the street that thinks Michael Myers is coming back. 40 years, folks. 40 years. It's her identity and sole reason for existing. And that was destroyed by Hawkins. What does that do to a person? I mean, oh my God, that realization that it was never, ever about you. Think about that. What that would do to somebody. Now, again, we might not see that struggle because it's 4 years have passed, so we're not picking up immediately like, say, 6 months later. It is 4 years later. So we're probably going to be introduced. Our in point into Ends is a moment where maybe she's not better, but she's light years better than where she was 4 years ago. And we're seeing that recovery. We're seeing where she is now and all the work that she's done to get to this point. And then something might trigger her off again, obviously, when it comes to Michael Myers. But that's interesting. That's fascinating. Seeing Allison, of course, the coming of age that she needs to come to terms with, the loss of her father, the loss of her mother. How does that bring her closer together with her grandmother? What's the dynamic there, right? You know, how does, of course, Lindsay fit into all that? Does Lindsay become sort of almost like a mother figure to Allison? That's possible. So there's a lot of interesting character development and dynamics that I think David Gordon Green, well, I think he's correct. Obviously, he'd be correct. He's the director of the movie. But I agree with sort of what he's saying in the sense of that it's a smaller picture, more about character. It's more focused in that sense. That doesn't mean that there isn't going to be scares and Michael's not going to look cool and there's not going to be a death here and there. Of course, I mean, it's a Halloween film. But I think it's going to feel more like 18 than it does Kills. I think Kills is going to be sort of that odd one out in this trilogy. And I'm all for that because I wasn't a fan of Kills. I mean, I just wasn't, there's certain things that, I like. But overall, I thought it was a step down from 18. So, interesting stuff. So yes, as I mentioned a few moments ago, the film is shooting now. I think they're about 4 or 5 weeks into it. And, with a film like this, smaller scale, I project that they probably have another few weeks to go. It wouldn't surprise me if by maybe another month, maybe it's an 8-week shoot. Maybe by the middle of March, we hear that things have wrapped. Maybe sooner. That's entirely possible. But then that would place it around 6-week shoot, which would be really fast. But this thing's not going into April. I mean, if they go into April, maybe there's, some pickups they need to do or, a few reshoots perhaps. But this thing is not, I mean, Halloween 18 shot in January, and I think it was done by, around the beginning of March or something like that. I think it was like an 8-week shoot. So expect within the next month, expect to hear that this thing has wrapped. That wouldn't be surprising. And, I think things are still on the trajectory, obviously, for October 14th, I believe it is, which is great. People often ask me, when do you think we'll get a poster and a trailer? Summer, I think. I don't think you're going to get... I mean, yeah, I don't think... There's no rush. I think you're likely to get a trailer again and a poster again, probably, summer, late June, July, perhaps. I mean, there's no rush. With this, you might get something sooner. I mean, again, it's always possible depending on sort of the style of marketing campaign that they want to, what is the marketing campaign they want to put out there? What are they doing this time? Are they sticking with a similar plan, or are they shaking things up a bit just to keep things fresh? I mean, that's always possible too, right? There's a lot of variables. Again, these decisions are not arbitrarily made. They are very calculated on what and when they release what. It's not just somebody wakes up on a Saturday and says, let's release it tomorrow. That's not how it works. So I don't know what the plan is yet. So, so those are my thoughts so far, kind of on where Halloween Ends is. I mean, there's not a lot of info we have at the moment, in terms of what we could see this film being. Obviously, we know from the mouth of Jamie Lee Curtis that COVID will play a role in this film. Now, it is obviously natural for people who are a certain type to kind of throw their arms up in the air and say, oh, this is dog shit. That doesn't mean the film is about COVID. It just could mean that the film is very much in a COVID world, which I think is, so are we going to see people in masks? Yeah, you might. I think it's important that we understand, although I would do things differently because I don't think it's necessary, and I've said this many times. Jamie Lee Curtis, like it or not, is very vocal. She's an activist. She's a social activist. She's not afraid to tell you what you think. Or sorry, what you think. Yeah, what she thinks, and hopefully you think the same way. She's not afraid to do that. And there's a certain amount of respect that I have for somebody that's not afraid to say what she thinks and doesn't give a frog's fat ass what you think. Yeah, even if I disagree, there's a certain amount of, respect that you have to have for that. It is very clear to me, although again, as I've said, this is circumstantial evidence, just based on the pulse of sort of the two films and kind of what I've seen. There is a strong social commentary to it, probably stronger than it needs to be with Halloween. It's a Halloween movie after all. Social commentary, as I've said many times, is nothing new when it comes to horror films, and good social commentary can be very effective depending on the horror film. But it's not always necessary, depending on the film that you're doing, or it's not necessarily necessary to be so overt and in your face. We know that these two films have been very much about trauma and women coming together and facing their fears and all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. But I have found, especially with Halloween Kills, not so much with 18, but with Kills, it just didn't work. Whatever they were trying to do just didn't work. It's like, guys, it's a slasher movie, it's a Halloween movie. Just, you know what I mean? That whole hospital, it just wasn't working for me. And I know for a lot of other people. And I would like to think it goes beyond any sort of, politics. Sometimes there are things that work in stories and sometimes they just don't. So I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what side of the aisle you subscribe to. I could not care less. I'm looking at it from sort of, does this work? Does it feel organic, or does it feel synthetically created and shoehorned in just to get a message across? And that's how it felt. I didn't believe it. I'm not believing it. So, and that was me. Other people can feel differently. Maybe it worked for them. For me, I didn't believe it. So it felt a little contrived, possibly because it's a Halloween movie. And traditionally, slasher movies of this level don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. So I'll be very curious how this is. It's not going to go away. I mean, they've started it. Obviously, we know that Halloween Ends is going to have some sort of social justice undertone there. I would imagine so. I don't understand why you would abandon it now. Halloween Kills was still successful. So just be prepared that there is going to be that. And I'm okay with that as long as it feels organic to the story. It makes sense. It was there in 18, but it didn't feel disjointed to the picture. It felt organic. It felt I believed it. I bought into it. I believed in what they were selling. So if they can go back to that and make me not even think about it, and it just becomes part of sort of the net, then great. That's fine. But the second you start kind of, beating people over the head and spoon feeding them with, hey, this is, here's a message about our society and what it just kind of like, it's not working. It's not, I want to get back to the, I want to get back to that. So again, it's not black and white. It's very nuanced. But I just want people to be prepared that they're obviously going to continue this. I mean, but it all depends on the execution, and whether or not you can walk away going, all right. Yeah, there's a clear message there. Clearly there's a message there, but it works. It works. It doesn't feel contrived or beating you over the head with a hammer. No, it works. It works. Well done. Okay. You know what I mean? And that's what I hope to see from that. Because then you get really lost in the story and not so much in the, whoa, where the hell did this come from? You know what I'm saying? So those are my thoughts there on Halloween Ends so far. If you're watching live or after the fact, make sure to comment below and let me know your thoughts on how you're feeling about Halloween Ends, and about the things I've had to say here today. So let's jump over to the chat room and see what you guys are saying. And any questions you have, feel free to get them in. Obviously, super chats take priority for obvious reasons. And let's go over and see what you fine folks are saying here. Okay, we had just a few of them came in. We have one from Troy Grubb, who sends in $9.99. Thank you, Troy. Says, for the channel. Have a great day. Have a great day, Dave, buddy. Also love seeing making guest appearances on the Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast. Frank and Darren, and you have great chemistry together. Thank you, Troy. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I love Frank and Darren, and I absolutely love taking part in anything, if I can swing it, anything where they might think I might be of an asset. So, yeah, it's great. We're having fun doing the Elm Street series right now, and Elm Street 5 is coming, I believe, Friday. I know there hasn't been an official announcement yet, but I think Darren can correct me if I'm wrong. Friday, I believe it's coming. Elm Street 5, Best and Worst of, with yours truly. So make sure you look out for that. Vince Pender sends in $4.99, says, I think Michael looks out the window because he's waiting for his parents to come home. Yeah, possibly. I mean, I don't think that's what they're going to go with. I'd have to watch Halloween Kills again. Admittedly, I've only watched it 3 times, and twice really, because the third time I was watching it with Tony on Two Dudes, and you're half paying attention. You're paying attention to the chat room, and you're talking with Tony, and you're kind of half paying attention. So I've really only watched it twice, and not since October. And I'd have to go back and sort of refresh myself on what Hawkins is specifically saying about Michael and the window and things like that. I think it's more philosophical than it is literal. I don't think he's necessarily waiting literally for somebody. I think it's sort of more nuanced than that. But you never know. Maybe they will do that. Jace Bale sends in $9.99, says, for the channel. Thank you, Jace. Really appreciate that. Justin Goodrich sends in $5 and says, do you think they will kill Myers? And if so, how? What do you think you'll do with the channel when Halloween ends? Also, have you seen Scream 5 yet? I have not seen Scream 5 yet. So that's still something I have to do. What will I do with the channel with Halloween Ends? Well, I'll just continue to do what I do. I talk about a lot of things on here besides Halloween. It's just that I rose to sort of prominence here on this channel talking Halloween, so a lot of my viewers really don't care about anything else that I have to say, which is unfortunate because I would like to think that people like to listen, there's a large portion of people that also like to tune in on a regular basis as well, but my analytics don't lie. Halloween, shoo, you know what I mean? Anything else? If you look at how many people have tuned in today, there's 224 people watching. If I was talking about, if I was talking about Freddy Krueger right now, there wouldn't be 226 people. If I was talking about, It's Me, Billy, there wouldn't be 230 people. If I was talking about just filmmaking and directing, and there wouldn't be 230 people. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not holding that against people. It's just the reality of what people are interested in, right? So obviously I rose to prominence here in this space as a Halloween guy. And that makes sense, right? And for that first year, it was Halloween all the time. Makes perfect sense. Although I was doing other things. But a large portion of my viewers really only watch when I talk Halloween. And it's disappointing. I'm not going to lie, because it's like, if you guys should tune in to watch some other things. There's some value in some of the other things I talk about too. But at the end of the day, I completely understand, right? There's they're not paying for this, that it's free, right? So they can tune in and watch whatever they want to watch. But I will just, when Halloween is over, there's lots of other things. Friday the 13th is going to make a comeback. Elm Street will eventually make a comeback. Who knows what's going on in my life when it comes to the film industry and things, like that, and voiceover and all that kind of stuff. There's going to be lots of stuff to talk about. So it probably only seems like I talk Halloween to those who only tune in for Halloween stuff. Do you know what I mean? So if you only tune in when I talk Halloween, it would seem to you that I only talk Halloween. But there's many videos in between that. And of course, there's the Two Dudes show, and Frank and Darren and I have talked about something, trying to get something going, maybe with the three of us too, you know what I mean? Outside of what we normally do. So there's that thing as well. There's always stuff. And like I said, who knows what's going to go on in my professional life. So there's always stuff. And when it comes to Michael Myers and how I think maybe he should be killed, I harken back to my sequel concept idea video. I've said this before. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I do believe that Michael should die. But I also believe that Laurie Strode should die. It's not, I'm a strong believer that it is not that characters die. It is how they die. Does it feel justified? Does it feel properly motivated? And does it make sense to the bigger picture that's happening? And it's not some shoehorned in weak death, right? And I don't care if you're the protagonist or the antagonist. I truly believe that. Nobody complained about Darth Vader dying. Why? Because of the arc of the character. And it was properly motivated, and everything that surrounds it. It was like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? It's not that characters die. It's how and why and the stakes for which they are dying and what it all means to the bigger picture. So I've always believed that there's an opportunity for them to kill Michael in a way that is literal, yes, but leaves a philosophical sort of question for the audience, and allows the audience to think about things and sort of, all that kind of stuff. I truly believe that. I think it's... because unless you are prepared for the Halloween series to be dog shit, because I've said from the very beginning, if you follow me for any length of time, you Halloween people out there that only tune in when I talk Halloween, you know this. I've said for years now, the more sequels you make, it is inevitable that eventually you will hit that one where you go, we're here now. Do you know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that Halloween Kills was that movie, but it is a little surprising to me that Halloween Kills is incredibly divisive. I mean, incredibly divisive. And it's like the Last Jedi of the Halloween series. There are people that love it. There are people that despise it. It doesn't feel like there's any in between. I mean, there are some, like myself, but it doesn't feel like there's any in between. It is a very divisive film. And it's like, and that's just the first sequel after 18. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you think you're going to get another 6 movies in this series that are great, you're fooling yourself. You're on crack. It's not going to happen, And so I think it's important, for the sake of the character, the legacy of the character, the legacy of the franchise, and what they're doing now, I think it is vitally important that we end this story. However you decide to end it, you end this story. The story that is connected to the 1978 original. That doesn't mean, as I've said many times, you can't move on and reboot it some years later, maybe telling it from a different perspective, whatever. But don't continue on with Halloween ends and then Halloween begins again, and then Halloween retribution, and then Halloween revenge, and then it's Allison who's fighting, and then Allison has a kid, and then it's Allison's kid, and it's like, no, enough. Now, listen, I'm speaking purely from a artistic integrity standpoint. If I was a studio, if you want them to continue on and you want Michael Myers, this version of him, to live forever, well, all you have to do is just go watch the movie and get everybody out there to watch the movie. If Halloween continues to make, $150 million at the box office, they'll continue to make them, because that's what it comes down to, right? Is the demand there? Is the demand there? And as soon as it's not, they stop making them. So, but purely from a filmmaker, artistic sort of fan of the series, I'm okay with things having a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's okay. They're stories. Stories should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And again, it's not that story's end, it's how they end. There's never, the reason why you're never satisfied, although some people point to H2O as a satisfying ending, fine. But the reason why you never feel satisfied with watching any of these slasher movies is because they never have satisfying endings. They never can fucking end it. There's always a jump scare at the end, or his eyes opening, or, whatever. It's never satisfying. There is an opportunity here to end this series with class, with dignity, with respect. So fans go, wow, that was a really good ending. Like, I feel satisfied with that. I feel satisfied that the story's over. I don't feel sad. I feel complete. I feel fulfilled. Awesome. And then maybe 10 years down, maybe they'll reboot the series. I don't know, but that feels cool. I feel satisfied with that. That's what I want to see. That's what I think is important at this stage of the game for the Halloween series. That's what I think is important. All right, let me see here. Let me just refresh this, get some other super chats here. The super chat I got was Justin Goodrich. Okay, and then we have Chris Parrish sends in 499, says, what's your favorite spoof movie of all time? I'd like to see a Michael Myers spoof and call him Mitchell. Oh, you know what? I'm probably going to have to harken back to like Airplane or the Naked Gun series. Hot Shots was funny as well. Those are probably some of my favorite spoof movies, for sure. 100%. Luis Nunez sends in $1.99, says, hey Dave, off topic, did you watch Scream already? I have not watched Scream yet. The original I have, of course, but not the 2022 film. Not yet. I will eventually. Andrew Stevens sends in $10. Thank you, Andrew, and says, Dave, do you think the level of violence and tone for HNs will be similar to 18 or overall different from 18 and Kills? I think it will probably be similar to 18. I think that's what you can expect. That doesn't mean that you're not going to see a graphic kill. I just don't think you're going to see, I don't think it's going to be as gratuitous, and I don't think it's going to be as intense. I truly believe that Halloween Ends is really going to be about character and the arcs of these characters coming to terms with who they are, what their role, what their legacy is in terms of this whole story. And the trauma they faced and the relationships and coming together and that whole big realization, if it wasn't a Halloween movie, it'd be a courtroom drama. Do you know what I mean? Like and I think that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have mood and atmosphere or a chase scene or it doesn't mean that. I think they're just pulling it back and driving it more about characters. And in some of the more dramatic pieces that I've seen David Gordon Green do over the years, he's pretty good at that. And so, he's tackling The Exorcist next. And not that, he needs a word of advice from me, but if I had a word of advice, it would be, remember, The Exorcist is not about, the head turning around and the green slime. And that's all fun and okay, cool. But The Exorcist is really about characters and the arcs of Damien and the arcs of Father Moran and the trauma and the guilt that Damien was feeling with his mother. And, let's not forget that Damien sacrificed himself to save a little girl he never met. He never met Reagan outside of Reagan being possessed. He never knew her. Never at all. He sacrificed himself to save a little girl he never met. Like, those are powerful themes. You know, it's all about, and yes, you have that mood and that tone in there too, because when you have strong story and strong characters that we can get emotionally attached to, then everything else is icing on the cake. So, and David Gordon Green, I think, he's proven to be sort of pretty good at that in some of the films that he's done. So I would like to see him go back to this with Ends, because I think he can do that. Again, it's a horror slasher movie. I mean, you still have to deliver on the horror slasher element, but again, I think we're going to see more of character than we have. Maybe even more so than 18. Let's see here. Prayin Sinez, is that how you say that? 05 sends, Prayin Sinners, I get it. Prayin Sinners, I get it. $4.99 says, why do we need this social commentary in our Halloween movies? They should have just bought your script, Dave. Yeah, I don't have a script. You mean my idea, if I had turned my sequel idea into a script? Well, again, social commentary is nothing new in horror films. It isn't. Some social commentary is more overt than others and is more on the nose than others, which is what you tend to see a lot of. I think with the climate today, it's a very divided. In my nearly 43 years on this planet, I have never seen the world so divided and so angry at each other. And social media fuels a lot of that. Now, social media is not real, but it certainly gives you a sense of the anger and the division of people. And there's a lot of stuff that mounts to that. Like, there's a lot of, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. There's no nuance. There's no context. You've heard me say that for many years now. And for those of you that maybe thought I was being a little hyperbolic or, whatever the case is, no, you're actually starting to see it. The world's very black and white, yes and no, 10 or 0. And it's just, that's not the reality of the human experience. It's not the reality of human beings. It's not the reality of the world. So when you remove nuance and context from everything and you try to kind of make, everything so one-dimensional in many ways, you can anger a lot of people. So it's nothing new. It's not that there's social commentary. It's how it's done. There was social commentary in Halloween 18, but it was more nuanced, right? It was more kind of like, oh, I get what's going on. Like it was show, don't tell. Not that there was no show, don't tell in Kills, but I understood by the performance from, Curtis and what she was going through and things. I got the dynamic. It was just more nuanced. It was just better. It was just better executed. Kills was just, this felt like an afterthought that they wrote to, it didn't work for me. I didn't believe it, but that's me. So we'll see what they do with Ends. But to your point, you're right. Not every horror film has social commentary. Not every horror film has something to say about life. No, not at all. And maybe Halloween is not the vehicle for that. But you have Jamie Lee Curtis, who is the star and one of the executive producers. And I have always felt, purely speculation, but I've always felt that she's been a champion of that for this. And it was one of her stipulations on returning. That, okay, I'll come back, but I really want to have the focus of the story on this angle. I've always felt that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think maybe it's, especially in Kills, a little just too on the nose. That's me. Super chat comes in from Rusty Nails 79, says, hey Dave, speaking of The Exorcist, what do you think of the new trilogy planned by Blumhouse? Well, I just talked about it, in a way, that's kind of how I feel is that, listen, there is a trilogy planned. That doesn't mean there is going to be a trilogy. You have to remember that just because contracts are signed for actors to, because a studio or a production company may sign a filmmaker to a 3-picture deal let's say like a trilogy, for example, doesn't necessarily mean that a trilogy will exist. Because there's no way of telling the future. There's no way of knowing if this Exorcist sequel is going to do well. There's no way of knowing it. It might bomb catastrophically. I mean, who knows, right? What it generally means is, hey, we have a trilogy planned, perhaps. And if the first one is really good, then we will make the others. That is what has happened here with Halloween. You'll notice that Halloween 18 ends, although when I saw it at the world premiere here in Toronto, and I know other people felt this way as well, felt that it ended a little abruptly. Like maybe it should have ended, maybe we needed like an extra 5 minutes or something. It does end in a way where you don't have to make another one. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The symbolism of panning down and focusing on the knife in Allison's hand is great. The passing of that torch, the symbolism of now she has the strength and independence and all that kind of stuff is fantastic. At the end of the credits, you hear Michael breathing, which is great. It doesn't tell you that he is alive. It just plants the seed of doubt and makes you go, oh, that's interesting. And if you had never made another one, that's how you end it. That's how I want Halloween Ends to end. Not necessarily with Michael breathing at the end of the credits, but I mean that kind of thing, like what I did in my sequel concept idea video. You just plant the seed of doubt. You make it more philosophical, more symbolic than literal. And that I think is more satisfying to me at the end of the day. So anyways, I digress. But it's important to note that there may not be a trilogy. So we'll see how this first Exorcist does. And if it does really well and makes, $150 million at the box office on a $10 million budget or something, well, yeah, they're going to go and make the next two. I'll just reiterate what I said a few moments ago and add to that by saying that demon possession movies today are a dime a dozen. We are desensitized now to possession movies. Seeing a girl arch on her back in some crazy yoga pose and going, I mean, it will always forever be a creepy visual, but it doesn't hit you the way that it might have hit you 30, 40 years ago. We're too desensitized to it now. So this is The Exorcist, arguably the granddaddy of possession movies, arguably one of the greatest horror films ever created, arguably the greatest possession movie that has ever existed. Now, I know there's been sequels to it, obviously, but you're pulling a Halloween 18, you're going back, erasing the others, and okay, it's got to be more than just CGI or even more than practical effects of head spinning and spider walking down the stairs. I know that was the director's cut, but still, it has to be more. There has to be more to it. This is arguably, The Exorcist now is arguably considered one of, if not the scariest film ever made. Now, I know some of the younger fans might be like, I get it. But, in terms of its significance, in terms of how it's embedded itself into the pop culture zeitgeist, what was happening. I mean, people were throwing up. It's not like Blair Witch, where people were throwing up because of the motion sickness of the it's not like that. People were not throwing up watching Blair Witch because it was too scary. People were throwing up watching The Exorcist because it was too scary. Having said that, it was a different time. People are less religious today than they were nearly 50 years ago. People it was very different in 1973. There were people walking out of that theater, devout Christians, going, oh my God, oh Jesus Christ, oh my God. Like halfway through. They couldn't take it. It was a very, very different time. It's hard for people today to understand what that must have been like. I'm not saying everybody was doing that, but that did happen. It was a very, very different time. That's the movie that you're making a sequel to. This has got to be more than just me popping in pick a possession movie. Pick any possession movie the last 20 years. It has to be better than that. And not just better than that, light years better than that. That is the bar that if I was approaching this film, that if I was tapped to make, that's how serious I'd be taking this. Now, I'm not saying they're not taking it that seriously. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that is the mindset. That's the game face that I would have on. Holy shit. We can't just toss a couple of creepy girls walking down the stairs. No. This is not. No. I've just been tapped to make a sequel to The Exorcist. Okay, like, come on here. You know, it's the Shawshank Redemption of possession movies. I mean, hello? Think, McFly, think. So, you know, do I have faith that it's going to be everything I think it should be? Well, it's always possible. Do I think it will be? Probably not. Probably not. But you never know. You never know. I'm cautiously optimistic. But as a huge fan of The Exorcist, that's a high bar. Now, does it have to be better than The Exorcist? No. No, it doesn't have to be better than The Exorcist. It just has to leave you, as you leave the theater, going, that was pretty good. That was all right. That was pretty good. Well done. It honored what came before. It was really well done. Like, really well done. It can't be flashy like The Conjuring. It can't be overly polished or overly produced like The Conjuring. You know, it's gotta be grittier and this is The Exorcist. That's how I feel about it. All right, a couple more super chats came in here. Let me just get to these. Real Reveal says, "Hi, Dave. Do you know if Ends will premiere at TIFF? I hope. Probably. I don't. Not yet. It's still too early for that. I doubt it will. It might. It might. But I just have a feeling it won't for some reason. But no, it's still too early for that. Matthew Ferresi sends in $4.99. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that. Real Reveal follows up with, "I got the It's Me, Billy book. Can't wait to read it. Have you got your copy yet? I got it from Amazon. Big book. It's Me, Billy. Almost 40,000. Yeah, Theo, it's no, I haven't. For those of you that don't know what he's talking about, there's Paul Downey from Bloody Flicks, and I think it's Dave Hastings, if I'm not mistaken, did a book on Black Christmas. It's sort of they wanted this book to be kind of like the Taking Shape book of the Halloween series, right? I don't think it's as thick. It's not like a phone book, but it's because obviously there's not as much material. But they did a book that's out now. I'm going to share a post very soon, actually, talking about it. So just if you follow me on Twitter or my Many Things Facebook page or the It's Me Billy Facebook page, you'll eventually see this post. But they released a book. And their book is entitled It's Me, Billy, Black Christmas Revisited. Not related to our film, of course, but there is a section in the book where there's an interview I've done for them and where we talk about It's Me, Billy. So shout out to Paul Downey and Dave Hastings for coming to us and allowing us to be a part, allowing this It's Me, Billy to be a part of your It's Me, Billy. So I think that's really cool. So yes, we do have a section of the book where they talk about It's Me, Billy, which is totally awesome. You can get it on Amazon right now, I believe, in paperback and hardcover, I think, and a Kindle version, I think, also exists, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll share a link about it soon. So, but no, I have not got my copy yet. Let's see here. What else we got? We got Adam Miles sends in $5 and says, "Hey Dave, factoid. I met your buddy Bruce when he took my Humber film program on a tour of William F. White. Cool dude, love the channel, keep on keeping on." Well, thank you, Adam. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that was probably Bruce for sure. Bruce obviously being the National Manager of Education Training at White's, William F. White International, which is Canada's largest distributor of motion picture, television, and lighting and grip gear for the industry here in Canada. I've talked about it before, but that's what Bruce does. That's his job in the film industry. So when it came to shooting It's Me, Billy, obviously my best friend of nearly 30 years, it'll be 30 years this September, the job that he has and the connections that he has was amazing. Bruce, essentially, for all intents and purposes, was our production manager on It's Me, Billy. He handled all of the, the order forms and the rentals of the the camera and the lighting and the grip and the dollies and it was just, it was awesome. He handled all of that because he knew who to speak to, because he works at the rental house. So, and I cannot thank the fine folks at William F. White enough. They were tremendous, professional, on point, on their game. Any questions that I had, boom, right then and there, they knew it, which you would expect, obviously, working at that level. But they were just awesome, like just a wonderful people, and I can't thank them. I can't thank them enough for being so awesome when it came to shooting It's Me, Billy. And obviously that would have been Bruce, who took you on a tour. Bruce handles that a lot. There will be university and college film programs that will often go over to White's, and they take them on a tour to look at all the gear and the equipment and the warehouses and all that kind of stuff. So he is a cool dude and very knowledgeable. I've learned a load from talking with Bruce. So it does not go unappreciated. I do not ever not appreciate having him as my best friend in my life, for a variety of reasons, of course, too. One of which is his knowledge in the area of expertise that he has. So very cool stuff. Let me see here. What else we got? I think I got all the super chats. Did I get all the super chats? I think I did. I think so. I think I did. Oh, was that another one? No, that was Adam Miles. Okay, how long have we been going here? How long have we been going? I've been going for, not even an hour. Feels like I've been going longer. But not even an hour. What else we got? Okay, we got Scared Straight Production says, Dave, how pissed do you think fans will be if at the end of Ends, Laurie wakes up in high school and the classroom was just, a lot. I'd be pissed too. I'd laugh. I mean, that would be obviously they're not going to do that. That would be, if you ever wanted to throw a big middle finger to the fans and to everybody out there, that's what you do. Obviously, it wouldn't get past the studio. I mean, what the hell is this shit? That'd be so funny, though. That'd be funny in a spoof. Can you imagine that's how it is? She wakes up, she's like, that'd be so funny. It'd be even funnier if there was which there isn't, but it would be even funnier if there was an outtake or a deleted scene that was never used in H78 and of Laurie falling asleep on her desk, at her desk or whatever, and she wakes up and because the teacher is asking her, that'd be funny. And they were able to get their hands on that and they use that. So it's not it's not something that's shot now to look like 78. No, it actually is the 78 film. Oh my God, that'd be so funny. That'd be so funny. I just laugh. No, they're not going to do that. They won't do that. Michael Thorne sends in $5. Thank you, Michael. Says, you talk about masters of the universe sometimes. I do. In a perfect world, which actor or voice actor could take on the voice of Skeletor in your opinion? Oh, I don't know, man. That's a good question. When it comes to, it all depends on what the vision is, right? It depends on sort of the direction you want to go. For me, in terms of live action, I've always said that I want, in my opinion, the people who portray, whether it's He-Man, Skeletor, Beastman, whatever, they have to be huge. Now, Prince Adam doesn't have to be huge. Like, I know in the cartoon, Prince Adam was also huge and he looked like He-Man. He just wore pink and white spandex, whatever. And I get that. But I would have Prince Adam as just like a regular sized dude, maybe athletic, he's athletic, sure, but he's just a regular sized dude. And then when he changes into He-Man, he's gigantic. But I mean, he's like bodybuilder gigantic, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Olympia. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And everybody needs to be that big. Now, I know the cartoon is dated now, and it's cheesy, and it's comical. Although some of the stories, even in the 80s, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. But I get that. I don't mean to suggest that we turn a live-action He-Man into a like a mockery, and it's silly. But I do think in my live-action Masters of the Universe, Skeletor is like 6'10", jacked, purple, right, and blue, and things with the hood up and stuff. Like it's. But you play it like Shakespeare. And what I mean by that is that you play it straight. You play it. You take it fucking seriously. I have always said that Skeletor, in my opinion, has always, it might be too late now, but he has the potential to be one of the greatest villains in cinematic history if you take him seriously. Like up there with the ranks of Darth Vader. I've always felt that. And I would have somebody who's like 6'9", 6'10". He's hulking. He's huge. He-Man is just as big, but he's not as tall. So He-Man might be like 6'5", right? 6'6". So there's always kind of like a looking just a bit up at Skeletor. And he's big. He's big, you know? And I've always felt that. Now, who that is, I don't know. I'm just talking about vision. You know, maybe you have to get a wrestler. Maybe you have to get, I don't know. But somebody who's just, he's majestic. He's fucking magnificent. You know, we have to remember that Darth Vader, David Prowse, was 6'7". So in the Darth Vader boots, he was probably 6'8" or 6'9". Darth Vader was huge. I always remember my mother. This goes back to 1977. I wasn't born yet. It was 2 years before my time. My mother and father had gone to see Star Wars by themselves. They loved it so much, they then said, oh my God, we need to take the kids. And I'll always remember my sister Jill saying that she was like, because she thought it was going to be like Star Trek. And at that time, you know, obviously there was no Star Trek The Next Generation. There was no Star Trek The Motion Picture. She just, you know, the original series is all she had. She didn't like, so it was boring, whatever. Star Wars, Star Trek, I don't know. She loved it. Of course, as we know, Star Wars is nothing like Star Trek. And she loved it. But I'll always remember my mother saying, this is true. She said, when we are first introduced to Darth Vader, my mother was like blown away. When the smoke clears and he walks in with the stormtroopers and you just hear, and he's there and he doesn't say anything and he puts his hands on his hips and he looks around like this and he just the shot, he was magnificent, huge. Just his presence was magnificent. Nobody ever seen anything like that. I think Skeletor should be approached the same way. The same principles apply. Skeletor has to be magnificent. Like just wow. He is fucking awesome. Like he is awesome. You know what I mean? And when he opens his mouth, he's not, hey man, you boob. No. We don't, no. In terms of his voice, I don't know. I haven't really given it much thought. Maybe something that has a little bit of reverb on it. It's dark, you know. It's not quite Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. Gadget. You know, it's not like that. But it's something that's dark, very dark and menacing. You know what I mean? Like and maybe it's like, whoa, man, he sounds fucking great. You know? For sure. In terms of voice acting, I think Mark Hamill did a fine job. Obviously, he sounds like Mark Hamill. But in terms of the Masters of the Universe on Netflix, I think he did fine. I mean, it all comes down to what is this Skeletor going to be? Is he whimsical? Is he sort of half silly? Well, he was kind of in the new series. And I think Mark did a fine job. So I'm not really sure. I'd have to give it some thought, but those are at least my off the top of my head thoughts. All right, let's see here. Frank Riker sends in $2, says for the sexy MFers in the chat. Thank you, Frank. Much appreciated. Praying Sinners 05. I got it this time. They need to steer away from McBride's style of humor, all humor in general, a serious stalking in the dark movie, creating that Carpenter atmosphere. I agree. I don't know if we're going to get a top to bottom movie like that with Halloween Ends, because obviously we know, again, they're going smaller, but maybe you will. I mean, maybe you will. Maybe now that they're going to focus more on character and the arcs of those characters, you can then be more nuanced and you can be more subtle and you can bring in more of that mood and that atmosphere and the subtlety of it, the stalking. We've yet to see in Halloween 18 or Kills a real stalking moment that really draws out suspense. We haven't seen that yet. Maybe we'll see it in Ends. I have no idea. I mean, there's been pockets of it, moments of it. I mean, that was one of the things that I had praised Halloween Kills about, and people mistook it to mean that I was praising the movie overall. But of course, one of the few moments we do get a little bit of suspense in Halloween Kills is when Michael is chasing Lindsay, and Lindsay is hiding kind of near the water in the tree, and he's there, and there's just, I admit, I remember watching the theater going, it's not like palpable, like, it's so thick you could cut it with a knife. It's not that kind of thing. But it definitely was a little bit of suspense that we miss, that I would like to see more of. I wish that scene had been drawn out a bit more, But yeah, I agree with you though. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. I'm not entirely sure. Michael Thorne sends in $5, says, I've always thought Charles Dance could provide a really mature, dark, and sophisticated Skeletor voice. He may be too old now, though. Yeah, Charles Dance, yeah, he's a great character actor. Obviously, is very used to playing, the villain. Maybe. I'd be open to it. I would be open. I would have to see it together, though. Do you know what I mean? I'd have to see it together. Like, I'd have to see, I'd have to see my vision of Skeletor in terms of its look, and with Charles Dance's voice. Maybe. There's a lot of directions you could go. You know what I mean? And then, of course, in my version, he'd have the hood up. You kind of see bits of the skull and things like that, but you never see the skull until maybe the end of the movie when he's fighting He-Man, perhaps, whatever the story ends up being. Maybe he's fighting He-Man. I've always imagined him fighting He-Man on like a drawbridge or some sort of like bridge, kind of like the bridge from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So like a suspension kind of, not a suspension bridge, but like, what are they called? Maybe that is a suspension bridge, maybe? Anyway, like the bridge from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But these two hulking guys are like slashing it out over lava, and they're like next to Snake Mountain, and it's like, they're like, it looks incredible. Of course, to be able to do this, you'd need hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, this is not something, I don't know what Netflix is going to do. I mean, they spend a fucking lot of money. I don't know what they're going to do with their Masters of the Universe. Is it a series they're doing or a movie? I can't remember. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. But all I know is that, somebody said to me that Masters of the Universe is like Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings. And that is true. 100% that's true. It has to be majestic. It has to be big, huge, world building, character development. Like, it's magnificent, because if you're not going to, there's so much potential to do that. Now, you do obviously have to also get a large portion of the movie-going audience to care about it. Because, I mean, people like me over 40 are like, oh, yeah, woo, you know what I mean? But anybody who's 25 not going to give a shit. They didn't grow up with it, right? So you do have that. That's why I think it's important to not just give the flash and the spectacle. You got to give reasons for people to care about it. Great stories, great characters, well developed, great stakes, great arcs. Yeah, it's really important. Really, really important. Eddie Chase sends in $5, says, Dave, I loved your Tony Moran and Danielle Harris videos about how he attacked the fans and the whole saga. Any updates on them coming on show? No. Updates coming out. No. Why would Tony Moran come out? No. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. No, Danielle Harris had mentioned me in a video and had said that if I wanted to talk to her, just reach out. So I did, but I never heard back. So maybe she wasn't serious. Yeah, I mean, if Danielle ever wanted, but it's past now. It's past. It's past. It's why bring, it's, you know, and Tony Moran, I think it's just, my beef with Tony, like I said, has always been just owning your role. That's it. I don't have a beef with Danielle. I don't have a beef with Tony outside of that. Now, because I know people in the business who are connected with Tony or used to be and are connected to Tony, I know stories that it is not my place to say here. I would rather the other people say it. It's not my place to say it. But I know stories and things about Tony that are less than impressive. That just his behavior, his and look, I'm not saying he deserves to rot in hell and he doesn't deserve to be going to conventions. I'm just saying that he's had a rough life. And not that that's an excuse for moronic, stupid behavior. But there's certain things about his behavior that maybe the general public might not know that is kind of less than, you know, it's a bit distasteful the way he's treated certain people. But at the end of the day, I mean, you know, my personal beef, and it's not even personal because I don't know the guy. I've never talked to him. But I've always found it disingenuous when he doesn't, I think he's doing it more now, maybe because of the backlash. I don't know. But I've always just found it disingenuous that he doesn't own his role, or at least he didn't used to, you know, that he was unmasked Michael for 5 seconds. I've always felt that I think maybe he's been embarrassed by it. And that he doesn't, you know, and I do know, again, from knowing certain people, that there was a time a long time ago where he even said, again, this is coming from me, and I can't back this up without the other person telling me, but the other person is a very respectable source, but it was an intentional thing that he used to do. Let's just do that. That if he would never correct conventions or correct banners or correct posters if they showed a picture of Nick Castle as Michael Myers, but said it was Tony coming. He would never, he's like, well, I don't know. I think he felt that if they knew it was unmasked Michael, that somehow devalues his role. And I always felt that it's ironic because I think if anything, that makes you more significant. Okay, maybe you weren't the guy sitting up and turning your head. Maybe you weren't the guy getting shot out the window. Maybe you weren't the guy, you know, coming down the stairs or, you know, killing any, but you're unmasked Michael. It's one of the most important, it's iconic. Own that, right? I've always felt like own that, you know? And I've always felt that I think he's been embarrassed by it. Maybe less so now. I don't know, but I've always felt that he's been embarrassed by it. So, but yeah, I mean, maybe it'll come up again. Who knows? Tony things seem to pop up every few years. I have no idea. But there would be no purpose for me having Tony Moran and Danielle Harris on my show now. The moment has passed, as they say. Let's see here. Another super chat comes from Brian Weston II. Sends in $4.99. Says, Halloween was rebooted to get rid of Laurie versus Myers vendetta. But now with 3 films in the Strode saga, I feel they may have missed the mark. Thoughts? Well, Halloween 2 was, yes, one of the reasons, not the only reason. It wasn't the only reason, but one of the reasons why Halloween 2 was put aside was because they didn't want to explain the brother-sister, that they felt that hindered them, which I agree with. And like I've said many times, I don't even think, looking at Halloween 2 right now, I don't even think it's necessary. If you were to just sort of restructure a bit of the dialogue in the car at the end with Chambers and Loomis and change the dream that Laurie has in the hospital from dreaming her, you know, of her at the laundry sheets with her mom, holding a little, you know, doll in her hand. Mom, you know, what the hell does she say? Are you my mother or are you my real, you know, that dream that she has right in the hospital. Change that to her just having a dream about what just happened. So it's flashbacks to her in the closet. You could literally do that, change nothing else, and nothing changes about the movie. Nothing changes about the movie. Now, you could say, well, why does he go to the hospital? Well, I don't know. He goes to the hospital because she's the one that got away. He's infatuated with her. That's clear from the first movie anyway, right? That there's some sort of infatuation. And again, that's not the same as the kind of motive that I'm talking about. I'm not going to go down that road again. I have videos on my channel, but you could say that. And nothing else changes. And the film might be better for it. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why they did. The other reason is, how do we explain Michael coming back from burning to death? Nobody survives that. Nobody survives. It makes no sense. I know they mentioned it in 4, they were able to do it, but when you want to go back to the roots of sort of him not being literally supernatural, then you have to do that. Now, I know that people have said that, well, but now look what they've done with Kills, and he was shot point blank, and how is he not supernatural? I know. I get it. I hear you. I get it. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But I understand it. I get it. We'll see. But I don't think they've missed the mark. No, I don't, because the story is about, the story is about Laurie and her family and the generational trauma. Whether you like it or not, that is what they've done. That's how they've set it up. And as I said at the beginning of the show today, the fact that Hawkins has really kind of just destroyed Laurie's identity by saying it was never about you, I'm very curious to see how that's going to play out. How is that going to play out? What is that going to do? What kind of a Laurie Strode is she if she's not that Laurie Strode? What kind of a woman is she if she's not that woman? What kind of a mother is she if she doesn't have to be that kind of mother anymore? Now, I know her daughter has died, but I just mean in terms of like to Allison. What kind of person is she? Who is Laurie Strode if it was never about you to begin with? So I think that is an interesting angle, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to have a brother-sister arc in there. So I get what you're saying, but I don't feel that, at least not yet. All right, let me see. I have to skedaddle here in a second. What's the, what do we got here? Okay. All right. Let's see. Michael Meyer says, what are your thoughts on the new Spider-Man movie beating Avatar of the domestic box office? Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, obviously it didn't have a lot of competition either. So there are variables at play. I don't think it's just because everybody was, it was going to cross $1 billion no matter what. I think it's done as well as it has primarily because there's been no stiff competition. I mean, if this was released in the summer, or let's say in June, instead of December, in a non-pandemic era where a week or two later you would have another gigantic movie coming out, and then a week after that another gigantic movie coming out, and then a week after that 2 more gigantic movies coming out. Maybe not, right? So we do have to, I think it was always going to be huge no matter what time of year it was released. It was always going to be $1 billion film no matter what. It was always going to be maybe a $1.5 billion film no matter what. And certainly it was probably always going to be a $500 or $600 million film domestically for sure. I would say so. But I think it's done as well as it has because it also has had next to no competition. And of course, Toby and Andrew. Let's be honest here, right? So again, like most box office receipts. Now, again, I haven't seen the movie. I hear that it's a lot of fun and it's really good and it's right up the fanboys' alley, and that's great. But there are 2 very distinct variables on why it's done so well. One of which is Andrew and Toby, and of course that there hasn't been a lot of competition. So yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. I don't think it's going to catch Endgame's domestic. That's still an extra $100 million away. I don't think it's going to do that. But good for it to be, what is it? 3rd, I guess, is it now? 3rd domestic. It's pretty cool. Keith Aschenbrenner says, Dave, your radio tower video, do you still stand by it? Well, here's the thing that I think people need to understand about my radio tower theory. I'm not, and hopefully nobody got the impression. And this is important because obviously, and I'm not saying you, Keith, I'm not saying you, but this is, I want to take this opportunity to capitalize on your question. I'm not saying that my radio tower theory is what is going to happen. What I hope is going to happen, what I think they're definitely going to do, has nothing to do with that. I had a few people reach out to me and say that I can't believe, this is true, it's true. I can't believe you of all people who don't like motives when it comes to Michael Myers want that to happen. And it's like, I never said I wanted that to happen. It was supposed to be a fun video looking, I don't even know if they're that smart to draw parallels with symbolism and paganism like that. I don't even know if they're going to do that. I just thought it was fun speculation. It's supposed to be fun. It's a bold, which is in the title, a bold theory, which means I'm going out on a limb here, and that limb isn't exactly that thick. Here's a fun, bold theory. So do I think that that is what they're going to do? No, probably not, because I don't think they're going to go that deep with it. But do I think there might be elements from that theory that might be true? Like there's a cave underneath the radio tower? Maybe. I mean, the working title is Cave Dwellers. Well, the radio tower is going to play significance. The whole point of that video, that bold theory video, really at the end of the day, was me letting people know that I really hope it's more than just X. You could say that, well, the radio tower plays significance, which David Gordon Green says it does, or he says it's going to play a role in the next movie. But that role could be significant. It could be nothing. I'm just saying that I hope it's more than just Michael climbing the radio tower and falling to his death. Cable guy! You know, like I just hope it's more than something like that. Maybe it's not. But I want more depth to the film. I want more depth to the climax. I want more depth to the ending. I want more symbolism. Right? So I went out on a limb and said, hey, here's a bold theory that might be interesting. It was never meant for, I hope people didn't say that Dave has made this prediction and therefore he's saying that this is what I believe they're going to do. I never said that. I never said that. And if I gave you that impression, well, that's your problem. But I don't believe that there's anywhere in that video where I said, here's what I think they're going to do. Because I generally always choose my words very carefully. I like to play the angle of, hey, here's a possibility. Here's what they might do. This is interesting. I wonder. But as I said, it comes from a place of me wanting more substance. That's where it comes from. So I took that to go, well, I wonder if they're going to. Now, that doesn't mean that I agree with it. If I was making Halloween Ends, would I have a radio tower communicating with him and doing all this? No, I wouldn't do that. But hey, radio waves, we know what kind of, it's interesting. It wasn't meant that the radio waves are communicating to Michael. It was more about how waves can affect the brain and how they can make people, there's a whole psychology thing on this, you know, and like I was going very deep. I'm not talking about like Cult of Thorn going, Michael, wake up, Michael, wake up, or, and good morning, Haddonfield, Michael, wake up. You know, and I don't mean that. I don't mean that. It was just more about coming from a place of, hey, here's an interesting thing. What do you think about this, guys? What do you think about this? So in terms of your question, in do you still stand by it? Well, I still stand by my hope of having more substance. But do I actually think that my theory is what they're going to do, like 100%? No, of course not. I don't think that at all. I think but do I think it's possible there might be elements from that theory video that they might incorporate? I think it's possible. Yeah. Like maybe it's the radio tower that he's looking at out the window. Maybe there's a cave underneath the radio tower or by the radio tower where he's hanging out, or I don't know. Maybe the radio tower is used to send out a signal to confuse him. You know, maybe we know that certain waves can confuse people, and I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if when we see the movie, we're like, oh, there's certain elements that make sense there. Right. So just want to be clear on that. That's where I'm coming from with that, because there have been people that I think have mistakenly thought that that video was all about me making a bold prediction of what I think they're definitely going to do. Not at all. I was just having fun based on information that we had at that time. But as new information comes forward, obviously things can change, right? It was just fun. Let me see here. All right, another 5 minutes and then we shall call it a afternoon. DM Owen sends in $4.99, says, does the picture of the three women prove that Karen is dead? Karen is dead, folks. I'm telling you right now, Karen is not coming back. She's dead. I guess you could say that, I guess. But I think those who think that Karen might not be dead, with respect, I think you have to put your storyteller hat on and think about arcs and stakes and what makes the most sense. I know it's Hollywood and they can I get that it's not unprecedented for somebody to die and then not be dead, and it is a slasher horror movie. But let's be real here. It makes more sense for her to be dead. At no point in time after watching the film for the first time at an early screening that I was at with Bruce, at no point in time did we walk away from that going, I don't know if she's dead, maybe she's not. No, it's clear she's dead. She's dead, 100%. She's dead. She's not coming back. She's gone. Jones. At no point did I ever go, well, maybe. No, it makes no sense. And if she does come back, that's dumb. That makes no sense to me. You kill her off because now you've raised the stakes. And it makes sense, you know? Now, how you weave believable performances in terms of Laurie and Allison struggling with that reality. I mean, Allison's lost both her parents. So now it comes down to the writing of the characters and the what these characters are going through. Again, making the film smaller, more about characters, coming of age. So yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, her not being dead is just, what do the characters learn from that? What did the audience learn from that? Right? So, yeah, that picture for me didn't prove anything because I figured she was dead. I mean, it just makes sense to me. But I guess if you're somebody that was on the fence and that maybe you were holding out for her to be alive, yeah, I would take that as, well, there you go. No, she's dead. She's dead. Let's see, my peeps. Good show today. I felt it was a good show today. Good show today. Lots of people in the chat room today. You guys are amazing. You know that, though. I don't have to say that. You know that. You know that. Let's see here. WLJJ Movie Review says, hi, Dave. It's William. I changed my YouTube name. What was your YouTube name before? I can't wait for the new Halloween movie and the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Yeah, well, hey, this Friday at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See, ordinarily, Tony and I do Two Dudes on Monday nights at 6 p.m. But since the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie on Netflix is coming out this Friday, Tony and I decided to push our show to this Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Tony and I are watching the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie live. Now, you won't be able to see the movie, obviously, but we're doing a watch-along of Texas Chainsaw live. This will be the first time that Tony and I are watching the movie, so we're not watching it beforehand. We're going to sit down, we're going to pop on Netflix, and we're going to watch the movie live, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Friday night. We hope that you'll watch live with us, but you'll probably watch it maybe beforehand, too. I don't know. But maybe you'll watch it live with us. I don't know. First time. It's going to be first time. So that'll be an interesting commentary, watching that live. That should be fascinating and interesting, as they say. Okay, so I got DMOs. Have I got all the super chats? I think I've got all the super chats. I believe I have. I don't think I've missed any. Let me go over here. Yes, I think DM Owens was the last one. I think that was the last one. Let me just exit some of these tabs I have here. I have so many tabs up. So many tabs. All right. Yes, we got 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Andrew Contreras, is that how you say that? Says, thank you for this while I work. No problem, my man. Thank you for tuning in. Mike Johnston says, Karen got screwed over. She didn't even want to get involved with any of the drama originally and was forced to be a hero, which she died for. Well, it's true. But you know what? What was she doing walking up the stairs into the Myers bedroom? Into Judith's bedroom, excuse me. What are you doing? Oh my God. Karen, what are you doing? She should have just continued to sit on the steps with her daughter. All right. We've hit 90 minutes. That's going to do it for me, folks, here on this, hey, Halloween Ends update, kind of talking Halloween Ends, my thoughts on where they are, what's happening. Like I said, don't be surprised within the next month or so if they call it a wrap on Halloween Ends. They've already been shooting for a month. I think maybe a few more weeks. That sounds about right on this kind of a movie. Don't be surprised. Thank you to, of course, my great moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Shore, Darren Sands, Chris Baber. You guys are amazing. And don't forget to tune in Friday night as well. I think at 7 p.m. It's like a double whammy. 7 p.m. over on the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. At least I think this is the plan. Best and worst of A Nightmare on Elm Street 5 with myself, Frank, and Darren. That's at 7 p.m. I think Friday night. And then right at 8 o'clock, right after, you got Tony and I, two dudes and some bullshit, watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Folks, your Friday night is set. You know what you're doing Friday night. It is set. It is done. Cancel your plans. I don't care if you were going out with the wife. I don't care if you were going out with your friends. I don't care if you had plans to go to a wedding. I don't care. That's what you're doing Friday night. You guys are awesome. Have a great rest of your Wednesday today. And I will talk to you soon. Cheers. Wrong one. Here we go.